and liftoff. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here today at Kennedy's Space Center, America's spaceport. You know, 60 years ago, Kennedy was established to meet the challenge of landing a human on the moon and returning him safely to Earth. And for the last 6 decades, Kennedy has supported America's space program and launched the dreams of our nation. Today, we look ahead to the future and the exciting work that NASA is carrying out as we explore our universe. Please join me now in welcoming our NASA Administrator, Bill Nelson.
Thanks, Janet. Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody, are you ready? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for that? Out there on pad 39B. Welcome to the Kennedy Space Center. 2 weeks ago it was that we were right here and our eyes were fixed on this iconic American building. The 322-foot mega moon rocket, it began inching its way out of that big vehicle assembly building. And from there, the crawler transported it 4 miles out there to the launch pad. And soon it will undergo the final testing before its first flight around the moon. Artemis 1's journey from High Bay 3 to the pad is symbolic of our work. The meticulous planning, the late nights, the relentless spirit keep pushing forward. And that's what NASA does best. That's what we do best. And nobody does it better. That opening video showed how our agency is inventing groundbreaking technology, how it's igniting imaginations, and it's inspiring future generations. We're having this discussion today because President Biden and his administration released this budget request, and it came this morning, and NASA's $26 billion fiscal year budget for 23. It's a request from the president, from us, and it is a significant increase over last year's budget. In fact, it's 8% more than the enacted federal spending levels, the appropriation bill, from fiscal year 22. It's the largest request for science in NASA history. But greater than any number or statistic or a fact is what this budget request represents. It's a signal of support of our missions in a new era of exploration and discovery. It's an investment in the business and the corporations and the universities that all partner with NASA in all 50 states. And by the way, good paying jobs that they create. It's going to help our nation. It's going to help the world. It's going to address climate change. And it underscores STEM education, and it promotes diversity and equity. And it expresses confidence in this extraordinary workforce that we have that makes NASA, you know it, the best place in the federal government to work. Now, the pandemic, it really challenged us. Challenged us unlike anything ever before. It challenged us personally with our families. It challenged us professionally. And during the period of COVID, the NASA family never missed a beat. Never stopped giving hope to the country that we serve and to all of humanity. Your relentless spirit to keep pushing forward, your perseverance, it inspired NASA's new vision statement. This time we took it seriously, what the vision statement is. Exploring the secrets of the universe for the benefit of all. It's that vision that will guide our work over the next year. So, what are we doing, and what have we done? We launched the most powerful telescope ever built. The Webb telescope had the world on the edge of their streets during the million-mile voyage. 344 single points of failure. Skeptics focused in on everything that could go wrong, but oh, what a science team we have at NASA. And they poured everything into it, and it worked. And it's worked so far even better than planned. This summer, we're going to see the first images I've seen, and you all have as well, the first target star. And what we're going to see in the images that are coming is revealing the stars and the galaxies that happened to form the first galaxy 13.5 billion years ago, just after the beginning. Think about that. Light traveling at the speed of light for 13.5 billion years. That's what we're going to capture. Look also what else we've done. We've extended the commitment to the International Space Station operations through 2030. And this decision empowers NASA to continue conducting groundbreaking research and collaborating with our international partners. Astronaut Mark Vande Hei is coming home Wednesday, day after tomorrow. And he's coming home with his Russian crew, and we and he will celebrate a historic 355 days in space. And for the safety of our astronauts, the working relationship between NASA and our international partners continues. And that includes the professional relationship between the cosmonauts and our astronauts. And soon, we're going back to the moon as Artemis. We're going to learn to live and work in a hostile environment. And then it's on to Mars in the late 2030s. President Biden's $26 billion proposed budget for NASA will begin to make this happen. So let's take a look at how this is going to happen. Roll the video. How about that? For decades, many of us have looked up at the moon every night and we wondered when would we touch the lunar surface again? That day is coming soon, because not long from now, right out there on pad 39B, 8.8 million pounds of thrust will propel an uncrewed Artemis 1 into the heavens. And after this 3-week journey of over 1 million miles, it'll come home faster and hotter than any spacecraft has before. In 2 years, then from Artemis 1, for the first time since Apollo 8, Artemis will fly astronauts around the moon. It won't be Borman, Lovell, and Anders. It'll be a crew that will be announced later this year. And it will take them farther into space than any humans have ever traveled before. And when we land the first woman and a first person of color on the moon as part of the Artemis program, we will inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers and explorers. Remember what happened after the Apollo program. You had several generations of engineers and scientists and technicians that all came out as a result of the extraordinary work in Apollo. But now, the Apollo generation has passed the torch to the Artemis generation. And this new generation is preparing to push the boundaries of what we know to be possible. It will not be a series of isolated missions. Instead, each mission will be a groundbreaking component built on the last, on the moon and beyond. So let's turn our attention to Artemis Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson to tell us more. Roll the video.
Thank you. I'm NASA's Megan Cruz, and I am joined right now by Artemis 1 Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson. Charlie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You know, we see your rocket there on the pad. How does that make you feel?
Well, when I look at that rocket on the pad, it is a mix of emotions for me. It's excitement. I feel a sense of pride for the teams and for all the men and women who have worked on this rocket to make it possible. I mean, you think about it, and you see it. It's amazing, and really, it's made up of hardware, software, elements, piece parts that come from across our country, and it represents the work and the dedication of men and women from all across our 50 states.
So what did it take for you and your team to get to this moment?
Well, I mean, this team has been busy developing flight hardware, the SLS rocket, the Orion spacecraft, the ground systems. I mean, our big team has been working on this for a number of years.
Yeah.
It's gone from a clean sheet of paper to a concept to a design to cutting metal and manufacturing parts, and then the integration and test to this vehicle that you see behind you. So when you think about the effort, what has it taken? I mean, it has taken dedication and support from a team of people from across our country. Most recently, as part of the work here at Launch Complex 39B, you know, after rollout, it's been all about getting those tests in prior to wet dress, and so our team's been really busy with that. But certainly, if you're looking back over time, you know, the efforts on this rocket started some time ago and span many different teams and many different programs.
So you mentioned wet dress. That's the next critical step before we can declare a launch date, right? How do you feel about this test? It's almost upon us.
I'm excited about it. Our team's excited about it. It is a big milestone, and it is the last big test before launch. And so when I say that, even now, you know, I get a little bit of goosebumps because it's a big milestone. It's a big deal. Are we ready? We are ready. Our team has been training for this. We've gone through our tabletops. We've gone through our procedures. We've gone through our training, and our pre-test briefing is scheduled just a couple of days from now. So it's a very exciting time.
What are you most looking forward to for launch day?
I am looking forward to the team. There's a bunch of things. So the first one is I'm looking forward to our team having an opportunity to demonstrate all of the work, all of the training that they have been putting in for a couple of years now. And so I'm looking forward to that. From a hardware and a firing room perspective, I look forward to coming in on launch day, driving into the LCC and stepping out of the car and looking out at the pad and knowing that, you know, we're hours away from launch, and seeing that excitement in the team. I look forward to getting into terminal count and seeing those last minutes and seconds tick off the countdown clock, knowing that, you know, we are potentially, once we get into terminal count, you know, very close to engine start. And so I look forward to that, kind of those last moments of launch countdown.
And Charlie, what would you like to say to all the people who've contributed their hard work and their dedication to get us here to this moment?
I would like to say thank you, a heartfelt thank you. This rocket sits on the pad ready for wet dress because of the dedication, the support, the excellent work by a team of people. I would say thank you. Thank you for all that you have done to get us here.
And thank you, Charlie. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Thanks, Charlie. The Exploration Ground Systems team, thank you, every member of the NASA family. The progress that we have made was in big part because of you. And through these Artemis missions, we will make new discoveries and advanced technologies. You would expect that. And we'll do it in a way that we've never done it before. Just last week, we announced a plan for more competition to add additional landers to carry astronauts to the lunar surface. We expect to land about once a year for more than a decade. We're going to put an outpost or something like a station in lunar orbit. It's going to be in a polar orbit of the moon, and we're going to call it Gateway. And it will provide essential support for our return to the lunar surface, but it'll also serve as a staging point for deep space exploration. And our goal is to apply what we've learned living and operating on the moon and continue then out into the solar system. Our plan is for humans to walk on Mars by 2040. We continue the search for life. We're digging in Mars right now as one of our targets. We know rovers are critical components, but when you get down to it, you got to put the human in the loop. They are essential for exploration. The destiny of the human spirit is to explore. This year, a new inflatable heat shield is being developed that can actually slow down and survive re-entry on Mars. It's in this budget. So to sustain life on the moon and then on to Mars, we'll need surface power. We secured additional funding to build that essential infrastructure. Mars, of course, is millions of miles away. Research into nuclear propulsion is important. It will cut down the time it'll take for our pioneers to travel to Mars. It, too, is in the President's budget. Ladies and gentlemen, Mars is calling us. Last February, the Perseverance rover, it arrived at Jezero Crater on Mars. And the Mars Sample Return Mission will come back to Earth, bringing the samples gathered by Perseverance from the crater floor. Perseverance is putting them at different locations in these vials that are about that long. And they're putting a stash of them here and a stash of them there. And a Mars rover will go around with our European friends and pick them up. And then we put it in a Mars ascent vehicle, and it goes up and it rendezvous with a spacecraft in Martian orbit that'll bring it back to the moon. Just think what we're going to see in those samples. They could possibly confirm the ultimate question. Did life exist on Mars? Does it exist now? If it does, well, where else in the universe does it exist? You know, at NASA, we dream big, and we're constantly pushing the limit of what we know to be possible. And that's why it's critical to leverage the speed and innovation of the commercial sector as we move forward. Our partnership with industry has already allowed more scientific research. And in December, NASA signed agreements with 3 American companies to develop designs of space stations and other commercial destinations. First in low Earth orbit, and then who knows what, out of LEO. This budget provides funding for these efforts. It enables a commercial economy in low Earth orbit where the U.S. will maintain an uninterrupted presence after the planned retirement of the ISS. So, part of NASA's commitment to lead in space means that we will also continue to lead right here on Earth. Last January, Dr. Kate Calvin joined the NASA family as the agency's chief scientist and first senior climate advisor. And today, she and the director of NASA's Earth Science Division, Karen St. Germain, are joining us from Goddard to explain how NASA is at the point of the spear on climate research. So let's turn it over to the team at the Goddard Space Flight Center.
Thank you, Administrator Nelson. As you just mentioned, we're at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, one of NASA's hubs of Earth science and climate change research. And I'm here with Karen and Kate. So Kate, what is on the horizon for NASA to continue to understand climate change and delivering that information to the public?
Observing our planet, how it's changed over time, and how human activities impacted it is not new to NASA. We've been doing that for decades now. But we're at a point where we need to go beyond gathering information. We need to make sure that people have what they need to make informed decisions. We'll continue our climate research. looking at things like surface temperature, greenhouse gases, sea level rise, and other aspects of climate change. But we need to take the next step, and in that, accessibility to data is critical. While all of our data is freely available to the public now, we're working in the future to make sure that it's easier to use in good formats, and that people have what they need as they're making decisions, whether those are about climate mitigation, adaptation, or planning.
Thanks, Kate. And Karen, NASA is working to develop the next generation of Earth-observing satellites, the Earth System Observatory. How will that serve the science community and public at large?
Well, NASA's been a global leader in Earth observation, science, and modeling for over 60 years. But the challenges of climate change in particular mean we need more information and we need it faster. And that's really where the Earth System Observatory comes in. So the ESO is the next generation of satellite missions that will launch by the end of this decade, and they'll give us a 3D holistic view of our Earth system at a level of precision and accuracy that we've never seen before. And just as important as what we're doing is how we're doing it. We're going to involve industry to bring in innovation. We're working with international partners to leverage their capabilities. And we're doing it all under open science principles to make sure that we get to the science and the information products that people need to make decisions as quickly as we can.
And this is a question to both of you. How does NASA's climate change research help the average person? Let's start with you, Karen.
In most cases, today, people get access to NASA data through other agencies, federal, state, and local, as they manage things like coastal flooding and wildfires, and even through the U.S. Drought Monitor, which supports the entire U.S. agriculture industry. And speaking of agriculture, our NASA team just went to the major national agriculture commodities meeting to meet with farmers and agriculture producers and other key players to learn more about how they use NASA data today, what they need in the future, and how they need that information delivered.
Karen makes some great points. Whether people may realize it or not, NASA research has likely impacted things that affect their everyday lives or are used in long-term planning, and we're working to make that easier in the future. In addition, we also develop technologies that can help people mitigate or adapt to climate change.
That's fantastic. Many thanks to you both. Administrator Nelson, back to you.
Thanks, you two. What's clear is if we can measure this climate crisis, we can mitigate it. That's NASA's expertise. 8 of the top 10 warmest years on our planet occurred in the last decade. This is indisputable, and it underscores the need for bold action to safeguard our future. The President's budget will empower NASA to launch an Earth Information Center. They won't let me call it a mission control center, so they've gussied up the name. It's an Earth Information Center, and we'll use it as a mission control to monitor operations during spaceflight. We're embarking on this effort to monitor conditions here on our home planet. And this effort will be implemented in coordination with other agencies and partners. It'll monitor greenhouse gases. It'll integrate data from a variety of sources. And remember, this is a whole complex of assets that are up there, including the great observatories that we're going to put up over the next decade. Observatories that will give us precise data about what is happening to our planet, and that will look and give us the precise measurements on what's happening to the water, to the land, to the ice, and to the atmosphere. And the goal is simple: to make NASA more datable, NASA data more accessible and usable for federal, state, and local governments, universities, researchers, as well as the public. All of that, the Earth Information Center, like a mission control. But it'll be virtual as well. We'll even have it in kiosk around the country. This budget will give us the capacity to act more boldly and with greater urgency on trying to help save our planet. Now, this budget is also going to allow us to help mitigate the climate impacts in aviation. The X-57, an all-electric aircraft, is going to fly this year. It utilizes technology with the potential to make flying cleaner and quieter. I'm going to be out there at Edwards to see it at the Armstrong Flight Test Center. The President's funding request also supports a next-generation, highly efficient airliner prototype. NASA investments will result in safer skies, smoother passenger experiences, and faster aircraft. And that includes the X-59, which is going to fly this year as well. A supersonic but low sonic boom flight that can fly over populated areas. So let's hand it over to the Armstrong Flight Research Center, who are joining us live.
Thank you very much, Administrator Nelson, and welcome back to Armstrong Flight Research Center. 75 years ago, the course of aviation was changed forever when the late Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in the first experimental aircraft, the X-1. Today, NASA continues that tradition of pushing the envelope through experimental flight in pursuit of advancing sustainable aviation for all of us. I'm standing in front of the X-57 Maxwell. It's a Tecnam P2006T that's been retrofitted as an all-electric aircraft. I have with me here one of NASA's test pilots training to fly the X-57 for the project, Mr. Tim Williams.
Hi, Matt.
Hey, Tim. So, Tim, let's just start. What is the X-57 and what makes this a unique aircraft?
Well, this is NASA's first all-electric crewed aircraft. And it's been a couple years going, but basically all electric motors, and it has a battery as well. So it's kind of cool stuff.
Excellent. Can we get a closer look?
Sure, absolutely.
I want to ask you, you've flown so many different NASA aircraft in your career here. What is it like training to fly a unique aircraft like the X-57?
The key to any successful project like this is a simulator. And it's part of the whole evolution when we go test. I fly, I go back to the simulator. We've done a lot of work over the last couple of years in building up that simulator to match it exactly what we have in this cockpit. You know, it's just me in this one. Now, I have normally 4 seats, but we took out 1 seat, put an instrumentation pallet, and the rest of the airplane is all batteries. So I can't wait to fly this, believe me.
Appreciate it, Tim.
You
Thank
bet.
you. Looking forward to it. I'm going to kick it up to my colleague Sarah Mann, who's with Heather up at the X-57 simulator. Sarah?
Thanks, Matt. We're here in the X-57 simulator with Heather Miliska and sim engineer Ryan Wallace. Heather, can you share with us the contributions the X-57 has given to industry?
Sure. The X-57 project has made significant contributions to industry. As a reference platform, we're able to influence industry, influence standards, and the future of electric aviation. The industry is interested in distributed electric propulsion, and with that, the project started with LeapTech. And LeapTech was a modified electric wing that we put on a semi-truck that we drove on the lake bed here at Armstrong Flight Research Center, and we were able to prove and validate that our motors could produce 300 horsepower.
Can you tell us about the batteries?
Sure. Our NASA engineers designed batteries that could cover the entire flight profile, and we did this safely to make sure that there was no thermal runaways, and so we were able to share this publicly.
Great. Thanks for sharing all this, Heather. Matt, back to you.
Thanks very much, Sarah. I have Sean Clark here, who's NASA's principal investigator for the X-57 project. And Sean, I know it sounds like we have an important milestone coming up for this aircraft. I want to ask you about that, but also you and I know that NASA's goal is to share the electric propulsion design and airworthiness process with regulators, but why is that important?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We're really excited to take all of the engineering lessons learned that we're putting into this aircraft and get it into flight this summer. So we're all working toward that right now. And what's really important is that we learn from the fabrication and engineering development and airworthiness process and share that back to regulators and standards writers so that the aircraft of the future can take advantage of all the research that NASA is doing here and put them into the next generation of electric aircraft.
It sounds so awesome. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
So the value that the X-57 project is already producing for the sustainable aviation industry is foundational, and we're proud to be paving the way for NASA's new line of crewed experimental aircraft, also known as X-planes, to include the truss brace wing, which is coming soon, as well as the X-59, which is NASA's quiet supersonic X-plane that could open the future to quiet supersonic flight over land, cutting flight times commercially in half. Administrator Nelson, back to you, sir.
Thanks, guys. And let's remember that the first A in NASA is aeronautics. So, putting all of this together to chart America's pioneering course into the cosmos, we must embrace and empower the whole of our nation here at home. So we took the first steps with the launch of Mission Equity. We broadened our reach out with NASA's first ever Spanish language broadcast for the Perseverance Mars landing. And with a $150 million budget for STEM, for education and engagement, that was a 10% increase over last year. It's in the budget. And this is our opportunity to make limitless the potential of all Americans. Last September, NASA released its first comic book titled First Woman, NASA's Promise for Humanity. You think that's a hit in elementary schools? Do you think that that ignites the imaginations of those little minds? It imagines the story of Callie Rodriguez, the fictional first woman to explore the moon. This is a new generation of explorers, the Artemis generation. It's also a story of where we are going as a country. We were in the very successful Apollo generation. Now we're going to the Artemis generation. And I believe that this agency personifies the American story. It's a story that is never ending because of the work to create a more perfect union does not end. We have much work to do, but this is the work we must do together. And it's our leadership team's pledge to be your partner in this ongoing work. Let's recognize and bring down the barriers, both visible and invisible, that hinder fairness. Let's ensure underserved and underrepresented communities have access to NASA's programs and our resources and our opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a year since President Biden asked me to rejoin our NASA family. I'm just constantly inspired by the can-do spirit that guides our agency. And I'm proud to say that the state of NASA is strong. It's strong because the NASA family makes it strong. Over this past year, we've achieved missions once thought impossible. And we know this year is bound to be another banner year, full of breakthroughs and discoveries for the world's can-do agency. It's an honor of a lifetime to serve at NASA with you every day. Onward and upward.
Space is for everyone. We're all working towards a common goal. Just seeing people learn and grow and the community benefiting as a whole.
We have vendors from all around this country, and all of that's bringing in a lot of jobs and getting to work in our community.
I give back by seeing companies grow. My work means something. It provides people with the ability to feed their families.
Not everyone who works on the space program is an engineer or scientist in a white lab coat, and there's vital roles.
Everybody at NASA is very teamwork driven. Nothing that we do here is done by itself.
All successful missions come from a team that works together, that is diverse.
And we each bring a different perspective to the team to help us achieve our goals.
There's literally an expert kind of within arm's reach that you can ask any question to, and you'll probably get one of the best answers in the world.
We take a lot of ownership in what we do. You get to see a lot of that passion, you get to see a lot of that drive. People want to do their best, people want to pull together to be a part of this program that's bigger than what any of us can accomplish on our own.
NASA does the trailblazing with technology. The kind of work we do, you can't rest on your laurels and say, okay, we're there. There's no end to what we can achieve, so we have to keep pushing ourselves.
And any airplane that I get on, it's exciting to think about, oh, this airplane probably at some point passed through many of our centers. We are with you when you fly. We are coming up with safer, newer technologies that are more silent, more energy efficient.
Just to be able to work here and be able to design and touch something that will one day travel to a new planet is amazing. I mean, it's indescribable.
NASA brings hope and inspiration by leading the world to space for the progression of all people.